The impact of finishing my treatment after 48 weeks of a fairly gruelling time, and then being told 1 month after finishing treatment by the doctor that I hadn't cleared was awful. It was the worst time of the treatment. You know, I still felt really sick, and then to realise that I'd been through all that, 48 weeks of treatment, and up to that stage, another month of feeling sick, and I still had the virus. It was just awful. It was one of the worst times in my life, I think.
My first news when I cleared the virus was 10 years ago, and it was after being on treatment for 6 months, and I was told that, you know, I cleared the virus. But what happened to me after that was about 3 years ago, I was in the hospital. I had problems with my heart, so I was in there, and obviously they took a lot of blood tests and stuff, and the specialist came back a few days later and said, "Oh, you've got hepatitis C." And I was horrified. It was like, oh my God, what do I do here? And basically what happened for me is I put my head in the ground for a number of years. It was just kind of almost going back in time, thinking, really, I just don't want to deal with this right now. And I suppose that leads into that why people don't go on treatment and stuff, is because it's a big thing. However, what happened was I spoke to my specialist, you know, a few weeks ago, and I actually did a test and I got cleared. I was cured, and it was a big relief. And I spoke to my specialist afterwards, and he said it's very common that doctors don't actually. They actually think you've got hepatitis C, but what it is actually the antibodies, and they don't actually know that. So it was, you know, that I didn't even know that either. But yeah, apparently that's quite common that, you know, doctors just aren't educated around that.
I'm pleased that my Hep C status now is negative, though I still carry the antibodies. This can be a problem when you're at the hospital. I've had time when I'm at the hospital and they've sent out things saying you have Hep C antibodies, you should get tested. So that freaks me out a bit. But then I know, well, yeah, it's only the antibodies. And I get a test done about yearly just to make sure it still stayed away and hasn't come back.
Through treatment, you have tests, blood tests all the time. I think fortnightly and then down to monthly. And my test showed that I had cleared it in about week 38 or something like that. My final test 2 weeks after treatment had finished actually came back as positive, that I had rebounded and not cleared it. And that sent me into, I couldn't believe it. All I could think of was, next time I have treatment, I'm going to be 53. Am I going to be able to handle it? Can I handle it again? The professor actually said, well, because you were affected by side effects so severely, when we wouldn't even treat you for a couple of years till you get your body weight back. The next test a month later came back positive, which was even worse. It was over Christmas. I remember crying and thinking, oh goodness, but it didn't deter me. All I thought was, I've got to do this again. I wasn't going down the path of, well, it didn't work and I'm not doing it. It was like, oh God, I have to do it again. I have to do it again. The third test, the third month, so for 3 months I was devastated, would be an understatement. It came back that I had received 2 false positives.
I had a deep vein thrombosis in my leg, and it was quite complicated because the vascular specialist who was treating me he thought that because I was on interferon I'd be less likely to get a blood clot in my leg. It ended up having to do with the morbidity and how interferon, it deprives you of all your energy, and I ended up laying in one position for maybe 20 hours, and that cut off circulation. So they had to stop my treatment because it was quite serious, but I ended up clearing the virus anyway after 12 weeks of treatment.
We did a lot of tests every month for 6 months. When he rang me and said, "No, you're right, you're clear," I was actually at work, and I just broke down. I cried my eyes out. My colleague who knew what was happening with me tried to cuddle me and said, "It's all right, we'll get you through the second treatment." I'm going, "But I'm cured." I'm cured. And the whole office went to pieces, and we were all cheering and celebrating. So yes, a lot of people can get false positives. My suggestion is keep having blood tests to find out. If you get one false positive, don't think that's gospel. I had 2 before I got the real result.
Each month I would go in and be tested to see how the treatment was taking to the virus. And I remember after the first month of being on treatment, it was undetected, yeah.
I feel better now than I did 5 years ago, 15 years ago, or even 20 years ago. I've got more energy. I've got lots of grandkids that visit, and I've got the energy to play with them all day. They sleep over. I feel much better.